Hello friends, myself Dr. Amita, professor in pathology. I will be covering tumors of liver and biliary tract for you all. I have divided my topic into three small PowerPoint presentations. The first one of the series which I will be taking now is the malignant tumors of the liver. I have set the specific learning objectives of the class as follows. At the end of this class, the learner should be able to list the malignant tumors of the liver, describe the etiopathogenesis of hepatocellular carcinoma, describe the gross and the microscopy of hepatocellular carcinoma, describe the laboratory investigations in diagnosis of hepatocellular carcinoma. Now, let me put to you all a small question over here. If you remember the neoplasia chapter, can you name the viruses that are implicated in causing cancer? You remember the 4H and E? Yes. Can you list out the viruses, the 4H and the E? Hepatitis B, hepatitis C. Just try to analyze what is HTLV, human T lymphotrophic virus, human papilloma virus, and Epstein-Barr virus. Right? Now you got it? The 4H and the E. So to just have a look over here, the hepatitis B and C can give rise to which cancer? Hepatocellular carcinoma. HTLV can give rise to acute T cell lymphoblastic lymphoma leukemia virus. Human papilloma virus can give rise to squamous cell carcinoma of cervix, and Epstein-Barr virus which can give rise to lymphomas, nasopharyngeal carcinoma, so on and so forth, right? Let me share with you a case scenario. Okay, this was a case which presented to us few weeks ago. There was a 70-year-old male patient who presented to the medicine OPD in our college with a history of right hypochondriac brain, yellowish discoloration of his eyes. He had a history of loss of appetite and loss of weight, which was of 1 month duration. And on inquiring, the resident observed that he was a chronic alcoholic. At the same time, he was tested positive for hepatitis B infection when he was 30 years of his age. Just keep this scenario in mind and we shall come back to this case again in the end. So whenever the patient has a pain in the right hypochondriac region, it is important for you to understand that what are the organs which are located in this region which can give rise to pain. So when it comes to the right hypochondriac region, as was in our case, the common organs whose pathologies might have been implicated in the pain for him was either there was a lesion in the liver or in the gallbladder. Coming to the malignant tumors of the liver, the two important groups of malignant tumors which can occur in the liver are the primary and the metastatic deposits. Primary tumors, hepatocellular carcinoma is the one which is the commonest malignant primary tumor of liver. It is a malignant tumor arising from hepatocytes and accounts for 85% of primary tumors. Cholangiocarcinoma, as the name implicates, the word cholangio stands for bile duct epithelium. Cholangiocarcinoma is the carcinoma arising from bile duct epithelium in the liver, and it accounts to 5 to 10% of primary malignant tumors in the liver. And the rarest of the malignant primary tumor of liver is the hepatoblastoma. As you know, blastomas are the aggressive tumors of childhood occurring in less than 5 years of age. The second group of malignant tumors of the liver are the metastatic deposits. Metastases are far more common than primary tumors. We will see about metastatic deposits and the flag end of this. Coming to the hepatocellular carcinoma. The another name for hepatocellular carcinoma is hepatoma. Hepatoma is an erroneous word. You all know when we attach suffix "oma" to a tumor, it is usually benign. But here it is a misnomer. Can you just list out some tumors which have suffix "oma" but are malignant? Yes? Yes, just list out in your mind. So there are three at least: lymphoma, seminoma and melanoma. All of them have "oma" but they are all malignant. Okay. As I told you earlier, hepatocellular carcinoma is the most common primary malignant tumor of liver. It affects more commonly in males and usually in the 5th to 6th decade of life. As was seen in our case also, it was common. It occurred in 7th life. Coming to the etiopathogenesis, what are the etiological factors which can give rise to hepatocellular carcinoma? One we have already seen, the hepatitis infection itself, okay, followed by cirrhosis, which is another important risk factor for hepatocellular carcinoma. 80% to 90% of hepatocellular carcinoma arise in the background of cirrhosis in the Western world, whereas in India it is 50% the cirrhosis is present in hepatocellular carcinoma. Then we all know about aflatoxin. Yes, any one of you can remember it. All of you can remember it, I think. Aflatoxin is a mycotoxin, that is a toxin which is liberated by fungal organism. And what is the fungal organism? Aspergillus flavus. And Aspergillus flavus is a mold or a fungus which grows in the grains which is stored in humid and moist conditions. For example, groundnuts you might have seen at many times. Your mama had kept groundnuts in a box for long duration. She forgot to open it off, and when you open it off, suddenly you are surprised that there are colonies of fungus growing on it, like greenish black, okay, fungus. And these, when you consume, it gives rise to aflatoxin, which is implicated in hepatocellular carcinoma. And there are certain chemical carcinogens like butter yellow, nitrosamines, pesticides and insecticides which are used extensively for growing vegetables and fruits. Okay, all these are carcinogens which are implicated in hepatocellular carcinoma. Another important one is the alcohol abuse. Okay, alcoholism has a very important role in initiating hepatocellular carcinoma. So all these agents, they can act singly or in combination to give hepatocellular carcinoma. To summarize the etiological factors, we saw hepatitis B infection, hepatitis C infection, cirrhosis, alcohol abuse, mycotoxin, chemical carcinogens like butterello, nitrosamines, saffron, pesticides, insecticides. Then there are certain metabolic disorders which were taught to you in previous class like hemochromatosis, alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency occurring in liver, which can give rise to cirrhosis and later to hepatocellular carcinoma. Then you have your NASH, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis and smoking, and then the parasites. So important thing I am stressing again and again is the 3 or the 4 most important etiological factors for hepatocellular carcinoma which you must know is hepatitis B infection, hepatitis C infection, cirrhosis and alcohol abuse. And when it comes to the NEET PG NEET exams, entrance exams, you should know about mycotoxins and parasites. Coming to the pathogenesis, we saw the etiological factors. Now we should try to understand how these etiological factors in the liver can give rise to hepatocellular carcinoma. So all these etiological factors, the hepatitis infection, the alcohol abuse, all of them, they give rise to a state of chronic inflammatory disease inside the liver. In this cycle, in this chronic inflammatory disease, there is a continuous cycle of necrosis, that is cell death, and cell regeneration, which finally ends up in what you call it as cirrhosis. So these regenerating nodules or the hypoplastic or the proliferating cells or hepatocytes in the liver, since they are proliferating continuously, they are at more risk of acquiring multiple mutations, genetic mutations, and these genetic mutations, they accumulate and they give rise to the neoplastic transformation. There are multiple genetic mutations which occur, but the two most important ones which I need and I find it important to mention here is the beta-catenin and p53, which have important role in giving rise to hepatocellular carcinoma. So till now we saw the etiological factors and the pathogenesis. So let us move on to how this tumor looks on gross. So there are three patterns with of hepatocellular carcinoma on gross. The first one is the unifocal or the expanding type. You can see here in the upper right image, the normal liver is present on the left side of the image, whereas you can see a large nodule which is very much well circumscribed and single, which is seen expanding in the liver. That is the unifocal type. And the lower image, you can see that the multifocal type of hepatocellular carcinoma, where you can see multiple nodules of varying size which are scattered throughout the liver. And then there is the third type, which is called as the diffuse or the infiltrating type, where the tumor infiltrates into the entire liver. So here you can see that there are two sections of the liver, and you can see in both the sections, in the normal liver there is a single unifocal expansile type of nodule, in both the sections. Then here you can see the multifocal type, where multiple nodules of varying sizes are seen throughout the liver. Here you can see the ill-circumscribed tumor, the margins of which are poorly circumscribed and seen infiltrating into the surrounding tissue. And then there is a diffuse type where the entire liver is involved. Coming to the microscopic type, the tumors usually resemble the normal hepatocytes, and there are three patterns at the microscopic level. The tumor cells can be arranged either in the trabecular pattern or the pseudoglandular pattern or the solid. So in the trabecular pattern, the tumor cells, they are arranged in the cords of varying thickness. You can see here that the tumor cells, they resemble hepatocytes, and they are present in the cords of either 2 or 3 cell thick. That is the trabecular pattern. Pseudoglandular pattern, as the name suggests, the tumor cells are arranged in the glandular pattern. The solid type is the most easy to remember and understand, wherein tumor cells are just arranged in solid sheets. So let us remember what is anaplasia at this moment. All of you know that when you see a cancer cells under the microscope, these cancer cells at the cytologic level, all of them from whatever may be the site of origin, they show certain features of anaplasia, which you can use it or you can write it whenever there is a question on microscopic appearance of a cancer cell. So in the neoplasia chapter, I have told you about a simple mnemonic of how to remember what are the cytological features of malignancy or anaplasia. So this mnemonic is LMNOP of a cancer cell. So let us see what is LMNOP of a cancer cell. The word L stands for loss of polarity. M stands for mitosis. Any cancer cell, usually they show many atypical mitosis. Nuclear features are altered in malignancy. And there are four nuclear features which you need to remember in a neoplastic cell or a cancer cell. Normally, the nuclear cytoplasmic ratio is 1 is to 2 or 2 to 4 is to 1, whereas in cancer cells, the NC ratio is reversed and the nucleus is larger as compared to the cytoplasm. The nuclear chromatin shows hyperchromasia because of the increased DNA content. It appears dark. The nuclear membranes are irregular and the nucleoli are prominent. Then the O letter in LMNOP stands for others. That means the tumor giant cells, necrosis and hemorrhage are the other features you can see in the cancer cells. And then the last letter P stands for pleomorphism. That means you will see variation in the size and the shape of cells. So you can use this mnemonic whenever you describe cancer cells. So coming back to the case history which we saw earlier. So our case was a 70-year male patient, similar to a typical history of hepatocellular carcinoma, where patients are usually uh, they belong to the elderly population. Then our patient has right hypochondriac pain, and now you can analyze that why that pain was there, because the patient had a mass in the liver which was expanding and causing expansion of the capsule, which was giving rise to the pain. And then he had yellowish discoloration of eyes. Can you just analyze why there was a yellowish discoloration of eyes in our patient? So, because there was a mass which was expanding in the liver, there was destruction of the liver parenchyma, or the another reason may be that the mass was compressing the common bile duct. So, any of the two reasons may give rise to jaundice, and that may be the reason why the patient was having yellowish discoloration of his eyes. And then when the malignant cells proliferate at a very high rate, they liberate certain cytokines like interleukin 6, interferon gamma and TNF alpha, and these interleukins and cytokines, they give rise to loss of appetite and loss of weight, which are the features of cancer cachexia common to all cancer patients. Then the patient had a background history of chronic alcoholic and hepatitis B, which were the etiological or the risk factors for hepatocellular carcinoma in this case. So based on all this history, the resident or the clinician over there, he suspected a case of hepatocellular carcinoma, which was a provisional diagnosis. There was his provisional diagnosis was a malignant tumor. So what to do next whenever you suspect a case of malignancy in the liver? Based on the clinical features, you put your provisional diagnosis and then you move on to the investigations. So what is the first investigation you should advise in such case scenario? The simplest one which is available in most of the institutions is the ultrasound examination. So you go for ultrasound examination and then you may go for higher radiological investigations if needed, and then you have to confirm your diagnosis. So there comes the role of pathologist, where the clinician asks for a OPD test, a procedure or a test which is done on OPD basis without any admission and without any local anesthesia, and that is fine needle aspiration cytology. And then you confirm the FNAC's findings with biopsy and tumor marker. So in our case, there was a ultrasound done which showed a mass, and then the pathologist went over there. We put a needle, we aspirated the cell, we did the fine needle aspiration cytology, and the report of a hepatocellular carcinoma was ready in a duration of just 2 hours. And then the clinician wanted a confirmation, so a liver biopsy was done under local anesthesia. And here a liver biopsy needle is shown on the upper right column, and just remember this needle is called as Vim Silverman needle. Vim Silverman needle. This Vim Silverman needle is a liver biopsy needle, and this needle is present in the instrument tray in our practical lab. It is kept for you in the examination as spotter and also for viva. So you need to identify this properly, and you should know the indications and the contraindications of use of this needle. Okay, and even the procedure in short. Okay, so this needle you identify by a bifurcation which is present at the tip of the needle, and then you go for tumor marker. So in one of the tumor marker for hepatocellular carcinoma is the alpha fetoprotein, which you all are aware of. Okay, if I am not wrong, alpha fetoprotein is an oncoprotein. Okay, so another oncoprotein is the carcinoembryonic antigen. We will not discuss that over here, but alpha fetoprotein is an oncoprotein, okay, which is elevated in hepatocellular carcinoma, but it is elevated in only 50% of the cases. So it is not very sensitive marker because it may be elevated in other liver disorders like hepatitis, cirrhosis, pregnancy, and even in yolk sac tumor of the testis or ovary. So you cannot use it for confirmatory, okay, definite diagnosis, but you can collaborate. Okay, you can use it as a supportive evidence, okay, for confirming your diagnosis. So we saw the etiopathogenesis, gross and microscopy of hepatocellular carcinoma. We also saw the laboratory approach to the diagnosis. Now I want you to to be very much familiar or understand properly a variant of hepatocellular carcinoma which is very important, which is very distinct, that is the fibrolamellar carcinoma. You should know about it for two important reasons. One reason is that it is asked as a 5 marks or 3 marks question in exam, so it is important for you to know about it. And second is, it is one variant of hepatocellular carcinoma which has got excellent prognosis. Hepatocellular carcinoma as such has got a worse prognosis, but when you get a fibrolamellar variant of hepatocellular carcinoma, it has got an excellent prognosis, so you should be aware of it. So fibrolamellar carcinoma usually occurs in children or young adults, usually less than 25 to 35 years of age group. Okay, hepatocellular carcinoma usual type, always the etiological factors will be there most of the time, like hepatitis or alcoholic cirrhosis. Okay, something or the other will be there, whereas in fibrolamellar variant it will not have the etiological factors which I described it for the regular hepatocellular carcinoma. So etiological factors and risk factors of this tumor variant are unknown, and there are two important microscopic component of fibrolamellar carcinoma which you should know. The first component is the large polygonal cells with abundant eosinophilic granular cytoplasm because of the mitochondria in the cytoplasm. And the second component is the lamellar fibrosis. As the name itself suggests over here, fibrolamellar, that means at microscopy it has got lot of fibrosis which is arranged in lamellated pattern. That is why it is called as fibrolamellar carcinoma. And again and again I am stressing here is fibrolamellar variant has a excellent this. So fibrolamellar carcinoma gross, you can see here, it presents as a single nodule which expands into the liver and replaces it completely. You can see at the periphery it is brownish normal liver, and in the center there is the tumor, okay, which is marked with yellow color. And then coming to the microscopy, two components, okay. One component you can see on the right side, large polygonal cells with abundant eosinophilic granular cytoplasm. That granular cytoplasm is because of mitochondria. And the second component is the lamellar fibrosis. That means the fibrosis is there and that is arranged in the lamellated pattern. So we saw the primary tumor, that is hepatocellular carcinoma, in detail. In short, we will see about metastasis. Metastatic tumors are far more common than primary tumor, especially in our country when a elderly patient presents with a liver mass with multiple nodules. First we should think is of metastasis than a primary tumor. Most of them have come to the liver via hematogenous route. And which are the tumors which most commonly enter into the liver are the tumors from the breast, stomach, lung and colon. Although any tumor from any site from the body can enter into the liver and produce metastasis. So liver is usually massively enlarged. Sometimes it can assume huge size, okay, almost 5 kgs, and it will present with multiple round nodules of varying sizes. Okay, you can see here multiple nodules, whitish in color, they are varying sizes. Important thing is these metastatic nodules, they have central umbilication which is absent in primary multifocal type of hepatocellular carcinoma. So you can see that even the primary hepatocellular carcinoma can have multiple nodules in the liver, and even metastatic deposits can present with multiple nodules in the liver. It is very difficult to differentiate on gross which is primary and which is secondary. Even on radiology it is difficult to detect, except one important point is there which can help in differentiation is central umbilication or necrosis is seen in metastatic nodules, whereas it is absent in primary. And why the central umbilication or necrosis happens only in metastasis and not in primary, you are going to tell me when you come back to the college. Okay, that is a question for you to read the books, understand and get back to me later. Okay, so to summarize, we saw the malignant tumors of the liver can be either primary or metastasis. So which is more commoner, primary or metastasis? Metastasis are more common as compared to primary. But when it comes to primary, the most common primary tumor is hepatocellular carcinoma, followed by cholangiocarcinoma and then hepatoblastoma. We saw the etiopathogenesis of hepatocellular carcinoma, how hepatitis B infection, hepatitis C infection, cirrhosis, alcohol abuse, mycotoxins, metabolic disorders, all this can give rise to regenerative nodules in the liver, which regenerative or proliferating cells, how they undergo mutations and they can give rise to hepatocellular carcinoma. We saw the gross three patterns, the unifocal, multifocal and diffuse type of hepatocellular carcinoma, and the microscopy, that at the microscopy we saw the LMNOP of a cancer cell which you need to remember, and three patterns, that is trabecular, pseudoglandular and solid type of hepatocellular carcinoma. Then we saw the investigations, how to approach a case of hepatocellular carcinoma with the help of a case scenario. And then we saw that metastatic tumors, okay, breast, primaries from the breast, lung, okay, colon, they can all go to the liver via hematogenous route and produce multiple nodules in the liver, and how they differ from the primary tumor you are going to tell me in the next class. Thank you, one and all.